It is not enough to say that ADHD is a neurodivergent way of seeing, experiencing the world, because it's abstract and not many people understand what neurodivergent actually means. So let's start from there. Think of neurotypical brain like a smooth highway where everything, sound, sight, any kind of information travels in a predictable way. Remember that point. One brain area lights up, passes the message to the next, and the behavior happens quickly and efficiently. Now picture the ADHD brain. That highway, constant constructions, and the brain needs to detour everywhere. Nothing is predictable. The ADHD brain has to take side roads to involve more or different brain areas and to retour over and over again just to achieve what a neurotypical brain can do on autopilot. For example, planning, organizing, or regulating emotions. That's a tough one. This is also why ADHD is best friends with burnout, and I'm gonna leave the link to that video somewhere in the description. But basically the point is that if a neurotypical brain goes from A to B to C, a neurodivergent brain starts from A, then interprets that situation differently, goes to 7, which was never part of that network. It was never supposed to be on that route. Then thinks about it, goes to Z, T, K, whatever else, eventually lands at C and executes the behavior. But in the meantime, it wasted so much extra energy. Simply said, ADHD brains often use more mental fuel, and that fuel is usually dopamine. Dopamine helps your brain to feel motivated, to pay attention, to enjoy getting things done. For people with ADHD, accomplishment often feels like relief because the reward system works differently. Dopamine flows differently. For example, you often start a task with just 5 units of dopamine. Then suddenly you get full tank and you're hyper. And that usually happens when something interesting shows up. And the irregular levels of dopamine is one of the reasons why people with ADHD are often seen as childish, because the way they behave, the way they're motivated to do something isn't based on importance, but on novelty, on excitement, or obsession. Yeah, those things will get things done. And neurodivergence includes ADHD, autism, dyslexia, Tourette's, and more, each with their own strengths and challenges. Like for example, somebody with dyslexia may experience difficulties reading, but they're probably really good at seeing the bigger picture and patterns within that bigger picture. With ADHD, they cannot really stay still. Even for me right now, I'm moving all the time, and I'm gonna cut it later because I just can't stay still for a long period of time. And for me, long is 5 minutes already long. On the other hand, people with ADHD are really good at thriving in dynamic, different environment. Yeah, they thrive in the difference. And given the state of the world right now and just understanding history a little bit, I believe that neurodivergency is evolutionary trait. It helped us survive. But okay, let's go back to the video. So another interesting thing that I would love you to understand about ADHD is that those people are usually late bloomers. The parts of the brain, so like the prefrontal cortex, usually develop a little bit slower. Even for neurotypical people, they usually develop until early 20s. But for people with ADHD, it can take up to their 30s. And that doesn't mean that you cannot do things. It just means that you may need a bit more time in order to be able to handle your brain, the world around you, and yourself. And here's a little video of a cat to, help your attention. That's Lexi, who just loves to be everywhere where the action happens. And by the way, do you know that the relationship between performance and stress is a U-shaped curve? So to a certain point, stress helps us perform better. And usually that point is when we no longer believe that we can handle the task, or simply we are too tired. More stress after this point leads to more fear or anger, and it decreases our performance. But the ADHD brain thrives on stimulation, which is not the same as stress. And on top of that, people with ADHD usually have less tolerance for stress. So that shape that you saw, that point for a neurotypical person is, let's say, here. For a neurodivergent people is earlier, because a lot of people with ADHD have history of underperforming, of failing expectations. So they have learned to doubt yourself. So if for any single person, the question is, do I believe that I can handle the task or not? A neurotypical person often thinks they cannot handle the task much earlier because of that history of trauma and disappointment. So I hope by now it is clear that ADHD is not simply about being hyperactive. It's also about pacing, about environment, about so many other different symptoms. It's really a brain that is wired differently and performs the exact same tasks through a different routes. And for years, society has seen those differences as a disorder, a disease. But I think the neurodiversity approach helps us understand that brains aren't meant to be identical. Different doesn't mean broken. It just means that your brain works on a different map and it needs different tools in order to navigate that world. And if this video is helping you so far, share, because I truly believe that increasing awareness of what the heck is neurodivergent, what the heck is ADHD, can help not only decrease the stigma, but make people who feel so much self-doubt and guilt feel a little better. So share. I'd love to clarify one more thing. The name ADHD usually stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactive Disorder. However, most people don't have attention deficit, they have attention dysregulation. Imagine your brain is a TV remote. In a neurotypical brain, you can switch channels easily, choosing what to focus on based on what's most important for you at the moment. In an ADHD brain, the remote can get stuck on a certain channel, which is the hyperfocus mode, or rapidly flip between channels, which is the inattention mode, regardless of whether those channels are useful or relevant. This difficulty in prioritizing what to focus on makes it so difficult for people with ADHD to get things done on time, to focus during meetings, to be organized, to act like adults, even when they want to focus. So think of ADHD rather as attention dysregulation, but do not limit your understanding of it just to attention, because there's so many other things. It's complex, and that's why people so often fail to understand it, because they want simplistic explanation. They want to see one symptom in everybody, otherwise it's not ADHD. And well, let's talk about this actually. ADHD doesn't show up the same in everybody. There are at least 3 main types, although most recent research speaks of even more types. Let's focus on the basics. ADHD, hyperactive impulsive type. This is the version most people picture. Someone who is always moving, talking a lot, interrupting. It's like those people have a motor running inside them that's just hard to switch off. You may also see them fidgeting, blurting things out, or making quick decisions without thinking them through. Then you also have ADHD inattentive type, previously known as ADD. And this type doesn't involve hyperactivity, which is why it's often overlooked, especially in girls, women, or quieter individuals. People with ADD usually struggle with forgetfulness, losing track of tasks, and zoning out. Finally, you have ADHD combined type, which is a mix of both, and it's the most common type. Picture someone who loses their wallet twice in a week, which is the inattentive part, but then they hyper-focus on a hobby and they stay up all night working on it, which is the hyperactive impulsive behavior. And if that's not enough, ADHD doesn't vary just by type, but also by people, because your personality, your environment, your trauma changes how your symptoms manifest. Plus, ADHD evolves with age. Yeah, an adult is not gonna run around like a crazy child, but usually they will be constantly multitasking, jumping into new projects, and leaving a lot of things behind them unfinished. Now, of course, understanding ADHD can help decrease the stigma in society, but honestly, that's not even the main point. I think the main point is that people with ADHD would feel less guilt and shame if there were more awareness around ADHD and being neurodivergent in general. And yeah, ADHD is just a difference, but it can make your life very difficult if A, you don't understand it at all, or B, you are in a very highly structured ADHD unfriendly environment, and then all your symptoms are magnified. You feel worse than you would in a different environment or among different people. So your environment really matters so much. Do not put all the pressure on yourself. There are things around you that affect you and you can change. And I would love the final takeaway from this video to be ADHD is not just challenges, but also strengths. You're very creative, very resilient, very innovative person. You're also very empathetic. You understand others. You feel others. Yes, it's not always feeling nice. Nobody always feels well, no matter neurotypical or neurodivergent, and we all have our pros and cons, strengths and challenges. And more self-awareness, more understanding of ADHD can bring more self-acceptance, can improve your relationships, and can help you to finally achieve the goals that you once believed are impossible. Thank you for watching, and if you want to see another video on how to express your ADHD to others, here somewhere I'm going to leave the link. Thanks, really. Share if that was useful. Let's increase the awareness of ADHD, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.